the NiQuan situation is something that was very, you brought it up back when the whole thing, the whole facility was launched and the Prime Minister had his glowing words to say at the opening. You saw the importance of this and you had a lot of questions then and you still have questions now.
Yes, and what I did say probably might have seemed unkind, but I don't think it was unfair. I actually said on your show, is this an advertisement? Or are they talking about opening up a gas to liquid facility, talking about how $35 million of the dollars was going to be scrap metal and, you know, downplaying the value of what they did inherit, which I think was not accurate. Of course, I do have the books, but I do think that there was a certain level of downplaying in terms of the value of what NiQuan inherited to begin the gas to liquid. But quite apart from that, I do remember we still have great problems with production. It's a continuing problem for us, price and production, especially to provide necessary natural gas as a feedstock or otherwise for downstream industry. Yet I don't know if I did bring it up then, and it did disturb me, and it continues to disturb me now with this incident, where they formed a company with two members, two directors, one of who is now our commissioner in England, Vishnu Danpal. I know that because he was a deputy or PS when I was in government. He was one of the directors, and I can't recall who the second one was, formed a company in order to transfer what the government was entitled to. Probably they didn't use it before, I don't know, the 20% gas entitlement, and transferred it to the company, and then they closed down the company. And that 20% went to NiQuan, which in itself seemed to me to be well, it didn't seem reasonable given that there were companies there many, many, many years. This was a new player that had joined the whole petrochem landscape, and it seemed to be getting this very favorable treatment, to the extent to which the government set up a company, put two directors, Vishnu Danpal and the other person, I can't remember their name, just so that they could transfer the 20%. And what happened? We had that huge explosion. And what was very troubling about that huge explosion they had, there was no account, appeared not to be any accountability. People who lived in the vicinity said, from my reports in the papers, maybe I have gotten it wrong, but certainly they felt that they were treated with a very great level of insensitivity, a lack of information, and there was no outreach to the community. And I don't know if the Prime Minister now is saying it's private, but I do recall when I said, is this an advertisement, was how the Prime Minister literally crowed. He cut the ribbon and talked about this was a new stage, a new development in the whole energy sector. And what he didn't say was what was left to be said. He was, you know, the word hyperbole, he was full of hyperbole, exaggerated speech in my view. So now that he is distancing himself now, guess what? If the family of this young man, who seems to have been, on the face of it, suffered from negligence as an employee under OSHA and under the common law, a duty of care, which an employer owes to an employee, which is non-delegable. In other words, you can't give it to someone else. It's a very strict duty of care. If that is in fact the case, unless the government decides, or NiQuan, let me not say the government, NiQuan decides to settle, all what is saying that is so private will become part of the proceedings in court, because that will be the evidence that will be used. So I am not so quite sure how private it is, and it seems to me, Prime Minister, and I may be wrong, but I think I have a lot of people thinking just like I am, because of the history of NiQuan, that this is an attempt to downplay a very serious incident and maybe not protect, but certainly form a sort of some sort of, to reduce the impact of something that a man has lost his life, and there's something wrong. There's something wrong with NiQuan, and we know that there's something wrong. 2 incidents in a matter of 2 years, and I don't think, I don't know how successful they have been, but is it worth it? Is something appears to not to be on the right.
So, correction, it's not that there's 20 million ordinary shares. There's 10,700,000 plus owned by NiQuan itself, NiQuan Energy, and then there's a smaller shareholder, M&G Services, that has 10,000 ordinary shares. This is, I believe, more or less.
And then the government has.
The government has 25.
Yes, so how is the government not involved?
25 Class B preference shares.
Yes, so how is the government not involved?
25 million. Yes,
How is the government not involved? Because that was the whole deal. How they went about paying next to nothing for a company which the Prime Minister cut the ribbon, couldn't stop singing, waxing poetic over this company, and showing how they were able, talking about in fact, the infrastructure wasn't even, they said it was scrap iron.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people might disagree that it was scrap iron.
So the thing is, what about the refinery? Because our refinery, which is old and has been sitting down there unused for quite some time, you know, is the government going to say that it's scrap iron now?
And not only that, NiQuan was built on a refinery. Because what happened was, if you remember, there were other efforts to do the gas to liquid, because we realized we need to go green, right? So we have the famous one that they love, if you're UNC, you love to talk about, what's his name? Yeah, who passed away?
Frank Lincoln?
No. Good friend of the Prime Minister, I have to put it that way.
Martin Joseph?
I don't think he was a good friend.
Oh, no, sorry.
But I mean, not that I'm not saying he was a good. But anyway, I can't remember the name. But in any event, that's not neither here nor there. So the PNM had given it a try, and it failed because the expertise, the technical expertise that was supposed to be forthcoming never came to fruition. But it did take them to arbitration, and they won. They won in arbitration, yes. They went on. And when they countersued, that's the company, they lost again. And then I think the UNC did their turn at it, and I think with Mitsubishi or one of those big companies, and they failed also. And now we have NiQuan. So it's not that they're not trying to go renewable energy, but there's something amiss, something awry. And for the Prime Minister to try to distance the private company. You have shares in it, Mr. Man. You have plenty of shares, and it's on Petrotrin grounds. And as far as I know, Petrotrin is owned by the state, so they either tenants or leasing or something, but there's a relationship of shareholding and tenancy or something of that nature in that company. You have equity in the company, so don't distance yourself. And when you go to court, or what you say you don't want to be reduced, it's going to come out. So I don't understand.